So, how do the big shop managers do it? How do they figure out if a huge decision, like, say, breaking into a brand new country, is going to be a massive success or a total flop? Well, it turns out there's a really cool tool for this, kind of like a strategic map. And today, we're going to get you to master it. So, here's what we've got on tap. We'll kick things off with the big idea behind it all. Then, we'll roll up our sleeves and build one together. After that, we'll look at a case study from South Africa, figure out how to turn all this thinking into a solid strategy, and, this is the big one, I'll give you the exact blueprint for acing your IB exam question on this. Let's get into it. Okay, first up, the core concept. Think of any big business decision as a giant game of tug of war. That's really the heart of this idea, which comes to us from a social psychologist named Kurt Lewin. He came up with this brilliant way of seeing all the invisible forces that are constantly pushing and pulling on any decision a company makes. So Lewin had this term quasi-equilibrium. Sounds a bit academic, right? But all it really means is that any situation, your company's current sales, employee morale, you name it, is basically held in a delicate balance. It's like an old school weighing scale. If you want to make a change, you can't just pile more stuff on one side. You've got to actually tip the scales and create a new balance.
And what keeps that scale balanced? Well, it's these two opposing sets of forces. On one side, you've got your driving forces. These are all the things pushing for the change to happen. And on the other side, you've got the restraining forces, everything that's digging its heels in and pushing against the change. And really, the whole point of this analysis is to figure out what those forces are and just how strong each one is.
All right, theory's done. Let's get practical. How do you actually build one of these things? It's a really simple blueprint, and trust me, it can make even the most tangled up problems seem way, way clearer. It's a simple 5-step process. Step 1, be super clear about the change you're thinking about. Step 2, list out all the driving forces, everything pushing for it. Step 3, do the same for the restraining forces, everything holding it back. Now, step 4 is the really important part. You have to give each force a strength score, usually on a scale of 1 to 5. And finally, step 5, you map it all out so you can see the whole picture and figure out what it all means. So what are we actually talking about here? What do these driving forces look like in the real world? Well, they can come from inside the company, things like having a ton of cash in the bank or a team that's super motivated. Or they can be external things, like the government offering you a sweet deal, one of your main competitors messing up big time, or just a sudden boom in demand for what you sell. And restraining forces? Yeah, they're just the opposite. Inside the company, it might be a culture where everyone just says, but we've always done it this way. Or maybe your team just doesn't have the skills for this new plan. And on the outside, you could be up against tough competition, some new government red tape, or maybe the whole economy is looking a bit shaky. Okay, that's enough theory. Let's make this real. We're going to walk through a classic case study. Imagine a fashion retailer from the UK, and they're trying to decide, should we or shouldn't we expand into South Africa? Now this is where the magic happens. Look at how we've mapped this out and scored everything. On the let's do it side, we've got a growing middle class in South Africa. That's a strong 4. Plus, our retailer is sitting on a pile of cash, so their financial position gets a 5. That's a huge plus. But on the hold on a minute side, you've got some heavy hitters. Political volatility and strong local competitors are both pushing back with a strength of 4. This is getting interesting. Okay, time to do the math. When we add up all the green go-for-it forces, the total driving score comes out to 16. That's a pretty solid number. It feels like there's some real momentum here. But wait, let's add up the red holds back forces. And what do we get? We get a 15. Whoa, that is incredibly close. 16 versus 15. This tells the manager everything they need to know. The move is possible, but it is sitting right on a knife's edge. This is a super high-risk decision, and success is absolutely not a sure thing. Okay, so here's the most important question of all. Now what? What do you do with these numbers? Because, let's be honest, an analysis that just sits on a desk is pretty useless. This is the moment where the force field analysis stops being a diagram and starts being a strategic weapon. Basically, you've got 2 main moves you can make to tip the scales in your favor. First, you can try to make the driving forces even stronger. For instance, you could partner with a local South African company to boost your advantage. Or your second move is to try and make the restraining forces weaker. Maybe you sit down with employees who are resistant, hear them out, and solve their problems. Or you upgrade some old tech that's holding you back. And this brings us to a really, really important strategic secret. Most of the time, it's actually more effective to weaken the restraining forces. Just think about it for a second. It's almost always easier to remove a roadblock from the street than it is to try and push your car right through it. So tackling the things holding you back is often the smartest play. All right, let's bring it all back to what really matters for you guys. How do you take all of this and turn it into top marks on your IB business exam? The answer, my friends, is all about having the right structure. Here it is, your recipe for a 10-mark answer. You have to do these 5 things. 1. Define what a force field analysis is and what change you're looking at. 2. Apply it to the case study, and you have to include weighted forces. 3. Talk about how this affects the stakeholders, like staff and customers. 4. Give concrete recommendations on how to weaken those restraining forces. And 5. Wrap it all up with a balanced, thoughtful conclusion. And this chart right here shows you exactly where you should be putting your energy. Look at that. 40% of your grade comes from how well you apply this to the actual case study. And another 30% is from your strategic recommendations. Just defining the term, that's not where the points are. The real marks are in the doing and the recommending. So, I'm going to leave you with a final question to chew on. We said that weakening the resistance is usually the smarter move. But is it always? Can you think of a time when maybe, just maybe, the only way to win is to just push harder, to put all your effort into strengthening those driving forces to create a massive breakthrough? Something to think about the next time you use this tool.